All right, for today's video review, we're going to be taking a look at Transformers Studio Series Core Class Wheelie. Yeah, I always forget that the Core Class and Studio Series don't actually do the numbering scheme, so technically he isn't even Studio Series 86 Wheelie, even though he is, obviously based on the character from the Transformers the movie, but whatever, that's neither here nor there. I couldn't decide if I wanted to get this guy for the longest time, just because I like the previous version of Wheelie that we got in Titan's Return, I want to say. I like that figure a lot, and I didn't know if I really needed this one, but I found him and I decided to pick him up, and I do like him quite a bit. Here he is in his little space car mode, and yeah, right off the bat, I'd say this is probably my biggest problem with this figure is that his fists are just kind of awkwardly hanging out the back here. I don't like that. I wish that those had folded away a bit. And, the front end is a little bit like blockier, I'd say, than the previous version of Wheelie that we got, whereas in the movie he is really just like a very smooth rounded car, so to have these kind of like hard edges in the front here does kind of throw me up a little bit. Trip me up. That's the expression that I meant. But yeah, otherwise it's kind of cute. It's a nice little car. It rolls well. I just don't like that the fists are hanging out the back there, and I wish that this was a bit smoother, but otherwise it's fine. He does come with a little slingshot accessory here, which is nice since the previous version did not come with one, and it does store in vehicle mode. There's just a little hole on the underside of his little back piece here that you can just tab in the handle too, just like that, and it stores. You can kind of see it from the back, but that's all right. I think that's a pretty good weapon storage there. Now, in terms of comparisons in this mode, just for the standard one, here he is with Kingdom side swipes. You can see he's very, very tiny, little tiny core class, and here he is with the previous Titan's Return version of Wheelie. So you can see, I kind of like the size of this guy better, how he's like really, really small, but I just think in general the vehicle mode of the Titan's Return one just really kind of hits the mark a lot better than this one in terms of being nice and smooth and not having, hands sticking out of the back. And it's kind of a bonus that it gets to actually fit a person in there too, Titan Master, but still. This one does somewhat have a hard time kind of staying tabbed together. People complain about that with this figure a lot, but I've never really found that. Like, if you're not like squeezing him, like, it's fine. Like, so I don't know. I'd say definitely vehicle mode on the old one I like a bit better, but whatever. But that's what they look like together. In terms of transformation, we'll just take off the little weapon here. First thing you want to do is take these bits. Surprise, they're going to be the arms. You just untab them from the back piece here and just fold them down like that. They're on a ball joint here and then a hinge right there. So just like that, kind of flip this piece up. Then you want to untab the front section here. It can be kind of, so these pieces on the side are part of the piece that flips up. So what I generally do, because I find it kind of hard to untab it just by like trying to pry out this panel. I think the best way to do it is like put two fingers on the back side of these pieces and then put your thumbs on the wheel wells there and then push up like that to untab it, and then it'll just unfold like that. Then you can kind of bring the waist section down, split the legs, and they kind of rotate out to the side on this joint here, and then bring them down on the hip ball joints, and then take the fronts of the car here and rotate them forward, and then take the little nose cone sections of the car and then flip them up to be the feet. Then you want to open up the little windshield here just so he's got clearance to have his head flip out. You want to straighten this all out, flip out the head, and then just bring this section in so it tabs in like that. And there we have Wheelie in his robot mode. You also do have to kind of unlock the elbow joints here because they do tab in for car mode, but otherwise that's him. And this is where I think the figure really shines. I think he looks really nice in his little robot mode. At first, in like the product images, it really tripped me up that like these pieces were like jutting out to the side like that, but in person it really doesn't bug me all that much. What does bug me is he does kind of have like this weird sort of big slanted butt flap, although honestly I can kind of get used to that as well. It's not the end of the world, but I love the little head sculpt. I'd say he definitely looks a lot more accurate in robot mode to the movie than the Titan's Return version, just in terms of the colors as well, because he really was more this like dark orange and then this kind of like pinky persimmony orange, as opposed to the kind of brighter orange of the Titans Return toy, which I was, granted a little bit more accurate to the G1 toy, but yeah, no, I think he looks pretty good in terms of articulation. The head is on a ball joint, so it can swivel around, and then just because of how it folds up for transformation, you do get a little bit of hinge back and forth. The shoulders are on ball joints here, so they can rotate around like that. And then for that transformation joint, you can also bring them up at that section there if you want, kind of more of a a shoulder like that raises up at that section. It's nice to have that option. The elbows are on ball joints, so they can get about 90 degrees of bend, and then also gives him a bicep rotation. Nothing at the waist. The hips are on ball joints. They can go forward and back before they bump into the butt plate there, and then out to the side. He's got ball joints at the knees, which give him a thigh swivel, and about 90 degrees of bend at the knee, and then the toes can only tilt down. So decent articulation for a figure of this size. Obviously, we can give him his little slingshot weapon here, which he looks very nice holding, and you can get him in kind of a slingshot pose here. Just like that, you can kind of angle it. And, I think that works fairly well. You can even bend his knees so he can actually get a knee on the ground. So I think that works pretty well. Works better than the the little static figure that we got with Studio Series Grimlock. So yeah, I'm pretty all right with that. In terms of storage for the slingshot, you got a couple options here. You could just peg it back into where it was in vehicle mode, so you don't even have to take it off for the transformation. The downside to that is from the front, you can kind of see it in between his legs there, just kind of hanging out underneath his butt. Another option that you do have is you can just open up his little, cockpit flap here and just kind of loosely throw it in there, and you kind of have to finagle it so you can get the thing to close again, but it does fit in there, which is nice. If you want it to be visually out of the way, like it does rattle around in there a little bit, but there's not a ton of space in there, so honestly it's pretty secure, even though it's not tabbing in. So I don't know, that seems a little cleaner to me, so I tend to prefer that, but either option is good, I think. In terms of size comparisons in this mode, just for the standard one, here he is again with Kingdom's Sideswipe, just so you can see what he looks like with an average size deluxe there. For another core class comparison, here he is with Kingdom Soundwave. So you can see he's a little bit short for a core class figure, but I think definitely fills out his price point, all things considered. Here he is again with the Titans Return Wheelie. So you can see what he looks like with the previous version. You can see a bit smaller, but definitely a bit more G1 accurate in terms of the colors and the shape of the head there. So, works pretty well. And then I guess, it is accurate that in the movie, he just kind of had like a dome chest like this. It wasn't actually his windshield. I never had a problem with the way this guy looked, but then when you get a new one, you're like, oh yeah, I guess that does look a little bit better. I do like I think he looks a little bit better than the old version in robot mode, but yeah, I like both of them. It's just definitely a little bit more accurate. And then last but not least, but actually definitely least, here he is with the previous Studio Series Wheelie that came with Studio Series Grimlock, who of course, doesn't have, well, he has knees, they're just permanently bent, and his elbows are, you know what this figure is. It doesn't transform, doesn't do anything. Looks okay in the one pose it can do, but definitely this is a much better update to the character. All things considered, I like him. I think he's a fun little figure. He's fun to fiddle around with. The transformation is kind of smooth and satisfying. I do really like the transformation on the Titans Return version as well, but I think he's a nice update. I'd say that robot mode definitely beats out the Titans Return version for me, but vehicle mode I think is kind of a downgrade. I have seen upgrade kits that kind of fix the whole hands problem, which I did pre-order one, so we'll see it, but then I don't feel great about buying an upgrade kit that itself costs almost twice the cost of the original figure to get a nice little wheelie. But this holiday season I decided to splurge. So maybe I'll do a review of that when I get that in hand. But for now, just for the figure as he is, I think he's pretty fun. Just those hands are really the biggest thing for me. But yeah, that's pretty much all there is to it. If you enjoy my videos, make sure to leave a like and consider subscribing. I do reviews every Tuesday, Thursday, and Sunday. And without further ado, here we have Transformers Studio Series Core Class Wheelie.